Welcome to You Not Crazy Conversations of Hope. We are on episode 5 today. Listen, I'm so excited about this episode. We're talking about breaking generational patterns, men, mental health, and their path to healthy relationships. I'm so excited because I have a guest today who's here. His name is Calvin White. And if you notice, look, he's driving. He's busy, guys. Listen, but he is a
Mhm.
devoted husband and father, entrepreneur. Calvin is also a certified life coach. He's empowering individuals to reach their full potential through transformative guidance. He is also the founder and president of Fit for Peace, a nonprofit dedicated to promoting health and wellness in inner city communities to combat obesity and diabetes. With over a decade of experience in fitness and private sector leadership, he continues to motivate and guide others towards healthier, more fulfilled lives. Faith, family, and fulfillment remain his pillars in his life as he inspires others to live with purpose and resiliency. Listen, I am so honored to have you today, Calvin. So let's jump right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, we are
That
talking.
was the bomb intro. We not just gonna skip over that. Like that one, I
Thank you.
felt
Thank you.
special.
You
I'm like,
are.
dang, I did all that. To
That's
God be the
you.
glory.
That is
That
to
me.
God be the glory. That's you.
That me. That me,
Listen,
mama.
so we are talking about intergenerational patterns, right? So listen,
Hmm.
intergenerational patterns play a significant role in shaping our mental health, right? So we're going to discuss how it shapes men's mental health because often influencing their emotional responses, their coping strategies, and listen, even relationship dynamics. I'm just going to share a little bit here. Listen, I've heard research has shown that it has impact man's emotional ability to express themselves. It often yields itself to emotional suppression, where they may feel as though they have been discouraged to share how they're feeling. Generations of society conditioning often promotes stoicism as a sign of strength, leading men to internalize their emotions, which can often result in anxiety, depression, and even emotional disconnect. Even toxic masculinity norms, right? So patterns that
Facts.
can be passed down from fathers or male role models that may reinforce rigid expectations about masculinity, which is oftentimes such as being dominant, independent, and emotionally invulnerable, right? And I've also
Mm,
seen how it can show up in
absolutely.
parenting models, right? A father who demonstrated emotional detachment or strict authoritarian type of behavior, which can influence a man's ability to connect emotion with his own families, right? So oftentimes all
Facts.
these patterns, if unexamined, can perpetuate cycles of dysfunctional emotional engagement, right? So I want to just talk a little bit about it because I really want men in our community to feel seen and heard and understood as they're kind of navigating through these intergenerational patterns and how it shows up, right? So I want to talk a little bit about how family dynamics shape the way we see relationships, right? In ways we don't even realize. So, what are some of the relationship patterns that you saw growing up?
Man, first off, that was a mouthful, and you hit it
Yeah.
like right on the head.
Thank
So,
you.
growing up, like we're all at the end of the day, we're all just combinations of our life's experiences, like you said,
Mhm,
starting from a young age that kind of
mhm,
shape and mold us
mhm,
into the men that we eventually
mhm,
become. Everything that we see at a young age,
mhm,
it stays with us, right? So if you come from a broken home, or if you come from a family and you see how that dynamic kind of played itself out,
mhm.
that's like your first exposure as a child. That's your first exposure to love, to a
Mm,
relationship.
good.
So for good or for worse, however it looks, however it's presented to you is what you're going to digest as an
Mm,
adolescent, as a kid, as a teenager. So much so you're gonna think because you have zero experience in that area, well, this is how it goes. This
Mm,
this must be how it is. Why? Because mommy and daddy are married, and this is how daddy treats mommy. This is how mommy treats
mm,
daddy. So
right.
when I get married, well, this is what I'm gonna do. So those behaviors we normalize them for good or for worse. So we have to do
Yeah.
a sometimes we got to do some unlearning,
That's
some
good.
unhealthy behaviors,
Hmm.
or not necessarily unlearning, all everything, but just finding new and better ways to express ourselves, when it come once we get our own.
I like that. So basically, a lot of times what we see is what we mimic, right? And we have to decide
Yes.
if what we're mimicking is healthy or not. So then, how do you think your early experiences influence your approach to relationships as an adult? Hmm.
Well, well, you start off by saying I ain't always been married, and
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your honesty.
there was, it was a time, things that I saw,
Mhm.
witnessed with my eyes growing up,
Mhm.
kind of, well, it really influenced my way of thinking and how I should, treat, women,
That's good.
whether I was not, having multiple and like, oh, this is a thing. Oh, I'm supposed to be this, player and all this and that.
Mhm.
And,
That's good.
you know, even to a point of, coming from a stage like, oh, well, she got this, she got this. Well, what can I get out of this?
Mm.
Just really going about it unhealthy and about it the
Mhm.
wrong way. Um, those things kind of stuck with you, right? And
Mhm.
you are who you hang around.
That's good.
So growing up in the environment that I grew up in,
Mhm.
growing up in the hood, you don't have a whole lot of role models or
Mhm.
examples. So those
Mhm.
people, those role models and examples typically become your friends or the people you hang around,
That's
right?
good.
Even if you come from a solid, foundation morally with the parents and stuff. I mean, let's face it, kids are trying oftentimes to break away from their parents and they want to be with their friends and they want to do what they do. And,
Mhm.
coming from a Christian home, there was a lot of things that, we just didn't do, right?
That's good.
Because of
Mhm.
our values and things like that. But as a kid growing up, again, looking to your left and right and everybody's doing it,
That's
well, you're
good.
like, well, why I can't do it? And, I want to
Mhm.
do this and they having fun and I want to have fun and do the things
Mm.
that they do. So being a kid and not being able to differentiate or
Mhm.
find a balance, you kind of just immerse yourself in, again, what you see happening and how they're treating women and what they're doing. So
Mhm.
you kind of dabble in it. Of course it feels
Mhm.
good to you, and I'm like, oh, well, this is it. um,
That's good.
this how I'm gonna be moving, moving forward. And the downside of that is not only are you, hurting the people that you are
Mm.
having these meaningless relationships with,
Mhm.
what you're doing within yourself, you're creating a habit, and
Mhm.
it's habit forming, and then it becomes hard to break away from
Mhm.
when you do become an adult. It's hard for you. It's not like a light switch. You just can't turn it off or turn it on. It
Mhm.
very much becomes kind of your nature. So
Mm.
that
That's
was kind of
good.
like my experience coming up. So those things stuck with me. So it took a lot of praying and to get it out.
So you really did share, that breaking cycles can be hard, right? Because you shared that in society, how you seen, men treating women and interacting with women. It just becomes learned behaviors ultimately, right? And
Correct.
so it's not many times that we recognize that the behaviors that we're exhibiting are harmful, right? So what would you say then? When did you start realizing that some of the patterns that you or behaviors that you were exhibiting in your relationships were unhealthy for you?
Well,
Well,
here's the thing.
mhm.
I knew they were unhealthy.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a
Good.
matter of like I wasn't naive to what was happening. I knew it was unhealthy.
Okay.
I think we live in a very self-serving
Mm,
society,
yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
I didn't care how it affected whom I was dealing with because
Mm,
I was just trying to get me. So
mm.
it was
Okay.
kind of like by any means necessary
Mhm.
to a certain extent. And I felt like as long as I would be honest in a way, right,
Mm,
of just being
good.
like, hey,
That's good.
this is what we are, this is
Mhm.
what we forever gonna be, nothing
Mhm.
more, nothing less. When feelings really started to get involved, I could always fall back on that, like, don't be catching feelings because I
Ah,
said it's gonna be this.
so you had a
So it
disclaimer.
was very much so, big old disclaimer, and yeah, it was unhealthy, and I knew it, but I just didn't care because I
Mm,
wasn't there mentally. I had like no desire. I'm like, I don't want to settle down right now.
okay.
I'm having fun and this, that, and the third. So I knew what was going on. Just didn't care.
Okay. So then what would you say would be what was the turning point or some steps that you took to break free from those unhealthy relationship habits?
The turning point came for me, and man, it sounds so cliche, but
Okay.
whatever. It's my story.
It's your story.
Um,
Share it.
it's literally when I met my now wife.
Okay.
That's what
Mm,
really made me want to change. And really, now, when I say want to, I wanted to change.
okay.
I really did.
Okay.
But like I said before, a lot of these things became almost a part of my identity from what I
Mm,
had been doing for years and years and years and years. It was
mhm,
almost like like you're a alcoholic or just that addictive behavior. You become addicted to whatever this vice is.
mhm.
And
Good.
so when I met Carrie,
Mhm.
it I recognized something in her that made me want to be better. Now, what ended up happening, right? I knew it was a change because
Mhm.
I wanted to hide it. This is the first time in my life
Okay.
where, oh, there was no disclaimer. There was just like, oh, we're not talking about this because
Okay.
I'm going to chase her. She's going to run away from me.
Mhm.
So I began to try to manipulate my surroundings
Mm.
to put on this facade. So much so, I would tell my roommates, my brother's best friends, like, hey,
Mhm.
when Carrie come around, don't
Mhm.
be talking about this, that, and who, no guy talk, basically.
Uh-huh. Gotcha. Okay.
It's like we ain't talking about that when Carrie come around because I don't want her to feel like
Mm.
I'm on that type of time. No, I'm very good and well. I was.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what kind of really made me think like, man, made me more aware and made me to
Mm.
want
Mm.
to change it. I had the desire to change.
Okay. So it sounds like the process, and I like how you said it, when we have and learn behaviors, it's a process to undo it, right? So what I'm hearing you saying
Mhm.
that you met someone who ignited something in you to say, okay, I can't continue this behavior if I want to continue in a relationship with you. So whether she set her boundaries, where she stands and what she's looking for, you eventually align with that with her, is what I'm hearing you saying.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and so when you think about as far as other steps that you took to kinda unlearn those behaviors to build, healthier behavior patterns that was going to be beneficial for y'all particular relationships, were there any other, wisdoms or insights that you sought out to kinda help you with that process?
To be honest, it was really a lot of see, this is younger me. We talking the
Mm.
Calvin, 15 something years ago, man.
Okay.
So they're really, that sounds like your question sounds like an approach polished Calvin in that bio you read would take. um, I didn't take any of those steps. I really
Okay.
was just trying to figure it out myself.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I'm here to tell you, I did a horrible job at that.
Okay.
Um, you know, a lot of ups and downs and
Mhm.
arguing and fussing and it was
Mhm.
very toxic, and
Okay.
it was of my own doing, and
Mhm.
I was trying to, from my perspective, I wanted to come out, but it was just harder because it had such a stronghold on me.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah, I couldn't even tell you like very, oh, I did this and then I did this and then I did
Mhm.
this. No, what I kept
Okay.
doing is just messing up.
Okay. So, you said something key about, the challenge of, sharing what you were dealing with or the struggles to kind of overcome it. And so I think a lot of time as men, there may be a challenge to opening up even about your mental health and some of the things that you're struggling with, in the relationship. What would you say, for yourself? How do you think we can create a culture where men feel safer to express their emotional and mental health struggles in relationships?
Oh, that's a great question.
Mm.
How it's kind of like you have to create a safe space
Mm,
for the man.
okay.
We live in a world where everything is very much like a masculine and macho, and oh, I can't do this, or I don't want to be shown
Mhm,
any side of weakness, or it's just so much masculinity going around, and I don't want to be looked at as weak because I'm opening up or I'm vulnerable,
mhm,
to my lady. So I think it's imperative that whomever you're in a relationship with, your significant other, that they do their best job in creating a safe space for the man to
okay.
express his feelings and not
Mhm,
feel like, man, if I say this, it's going to be railroaded with a bunch of your expectations, or you should be doing, and then it becomes like we're attacking one another instead
mhm,
of listening.
mm. Okay. So I hear you saying that a supportive partner can play a crucial role for men in their mental health, through offering, what I'm hearing you say is emotional security, a safe space, reassurance, that, where you are is something that you can be honest about. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, and I know you said for you it was a lot of trial and errors, but when you think about maybe the more evolved version of Calvin that was mentioned in the bio, right, versus the younger
Yeah.
version of Calvin, right? What do you feel as though you would have said to the younger version of Calvin about, your emotions as a man and navigating that, now? What's needed to kind of, what would have probably been helpful or more so, in the process for you?
Um, listening to your mother.
Mm, okay.
And when I say listening to your mother, being a PK, a preacher's kid,
Okay.
these morals and values and things were always instilled in me at a young age, like
Mhm.
improving my relationship with God and,
Okay.
you know, all these things. And Lord
Mhm.
knows I strayed away from all of that when I went off to college.
Mm,
Like, I don't think I went in a church since when I left my house.
okay.
Um, yeah, like, what is church? But I was very much uh, on the scene, outside on every, set,
Mhm.
literally. Shout out
Okay.
to fam. But I was everywhere, right?
Uh-huh.
And I kind of paid that price. You know what I mean?
Mm, okay.
And Yeah, so I would tell my younger self, like, you gotta listen to Mom Dukes. Mama's always
Mm,
right, number one. And
mhm,
number two, community is important, right?
that's good.
Community is important. Being around some positive, you know, brothers that are
Mm,
just as much as we're kind of concerned with turning up and going after this female and chasing tail.
mhm.
Nah, let's get around some brothers that are locked into, mental. You're making sure you good
Okay.
mentally, spiritually,
Mhm,
emotionally, physically, all the things, and
mhm.
that's why community is so important. And
Good.
I didn't really find community, and there's no shade to who I was around back then, because I'm still around
Gotcha.
those same people to this day, and we've
Mhm.
all grown up. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it's just a natural, we've all matured, have, wives, families,
Mhm.
success, businesses, and things like that. So we've all kind of, in a sense, grown up, but just
Mhm.
having that community and that brotherhood, that's so important, and that's what's missing, and that's what I would tell my younger self: listen to your mama and plug yourself around some individuals to where
Mhm.
you aspire to be, even if you aren't there now.
That's good. I love that. So, community is key,
Yes.
right? And so, Calvin, I just greatly appreciate you just taking time to provide some wisdom and insight. Listen, I think when it's all said and done, awareness and intentional efforts are needed to redefine masculinity so that we can empower men to confront these patterns from generational or learned behaviors that are not helpful for us to produce healthy relationships and healthy family dynamics. And so, in addition, if we're struggling to do that, as Calvin mentioned, it's important that we seek help so that we can foster emotional resiliency, because when we are navigating life, we cannot do life alone. All right, so we need to normalize community, we need to normalize talking, whether it's in therapy, mentorship, some way, so that we can have that emotional ability to emotionally express where we are. I think that is very powerful in breaking harmful generational cycles and seeking just wisdom, listening, right? Listen
Yes.
to those who's come before us, who know us, who understand, and who has our best interests in heart. And so, thank you again, Calvin. I appreciate your time for coming on it, and I know
Man.
that it's provided men the ability to reflect, right? Because we want to really encourage men to really be more intentional about their mental wellness. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and share it with somebody, because you never know who needs to hear this information so that they also can break the harmful generational cycles that they have seen, they have learned along the way. So thank you guys for tuning in to You Not Crazy Conversation of Hope. And until next time, thank you.